What is going on, Scan Fam? Welcome to another episode of the Crypto Current. We are here today with Kenneth Kumor, the CEO and co-founder of DLT Payments. Kenneth, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Always happy to chat.
Amazing. Now, Kenneth and DLT Payments are doing some amazing things. They are really bringing DeFi into business ecosystems. It's going to be awesome to see what they're doing, dig into some of Kenneth's background. So Kenneth, want to kick us off? Tell us how you got involved into crypto and what really set you on the journey that you're on today.
I started my career building SaaS for e-commerce as a project manager in a startup and gradually pivoted towards DeFi. I first learned about Bitcoin in 2012 and I knew it will get popular and I wanted to work in this space. So after about a year in the rabbit hole, I went to my first Bitcoin conference, which was the biggest crypto event in the world at the time, the Bitcoin Amsterdam conference in 2013. I had a chance to interact with early employees from Circle, Coinbase, BitPay. I met Charlie Lee, the creator of Litecoin, Brian Armstrong from Coinbase, long before they went public. So this was way before Ethereum and EVMs existed. At the time, there was actually a really cool project called Counterparty, which was the first attempt at smart contracts and building a DEX on top of the Bitcoin blockchain, a decade before Ordinals and Lightning Network. Although they were a bit early, it did not quite take off. These experiences had profound impact on me. And since then, I probably went to 100 conferences, networking events, and of course, the community has changed a lot over the years. But it still unites, I think, the most brilliant minds in tech, people drawn to the Austrian economic school of thought. Many people see DeFi and blockchain as a way to enhance freedom as an individual. And this really appeals to me as well. And I also wanted to test my potential as an entrepreneur, which brought me to where I am today.
Awesome. Those DeFi conferences are a really great way to meet people. I think that's really cool how early you were involved in those, meeting Brian Armstrong, some of those really early backers in the industry is pretty amazing. So Kenneth, can you kind of talk about how DLT challenges the current business standards as far as forms of payment?
Yeah, the best way to describe DLTPay is a DeFi aggregator. We are focused on SME payments, and at the center of it all is a digital wallet where we're adding features like on-chain automation of financial workflows, payroll, recurring payments, batch payments, all done in stablecoins and on top of the EVM layer 2 ecosystem as an alternative to fiat payment rails with all the proper accounting, exports, and business tools. So we are backed by Techstars, Cointelegraph Accelerator, and angel investors. Based out of Tallinn, Estonia, the birthplace of TransferWise, Bolt, many great startups. It actually has one of the most, if not the best, and most forward-looking regulators for tech and crypto. Obviously, the scrutiny from SEC is increasing pressure to innovate, to re-architecture everything as a non-custodial DeFi app, not to avoid regulation, but to create a more inclusive and robust system where the best possible outcome is incentivized. We're extremely compliance conscious and work with one of the leading fintech law firms, as well as BDO, the same firm that does audits for Revolut and the London Stock Exchange. So basically, at DLTPay, we want to bring permissionless DeFi into business ecosystems while still maintaining compliance. Nowhere in MiCA it says that the business needs to have an account with a centralized custodian, but most of them do. And this is since there is a lack of pure DeFi tools to help businesses deal with things like accounting and invoices. And this is where we come in and hope to offer an alternative.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's an awesome, regulatory focused and forward-looking approach that you guys are taking. Even today, it's not too often that we see that in the grand scheme of DeFi, right? Making sure that you are taking that approach from the get-go is very important for the longevity of any project within DeFi, really. So how does DLT Payments really empower businesses to take control of their financial destiny? And maybe that's a philosophical question to crypto in general, but I'm sure it applies to DLT.
Sure. When it comes to innovation offered by blockchain, sending and receiving payments is a low-hanging fruit. Every business should embrace at least stablecoins, if not other types of crypto. Obviously, the adoption of crypto in payments has been constrained because of volatility, but stablecoins are a relatively new phenomena, and we view them as a huge opportunity for SMEs, especially in emerging markets, where stablecoins could be a strategy to grow revenue, connect with new customers, and create resilience in times of uncertainty. We are currently live on 5 EVM chains. At this point in time, we feel that non-EVM blockchains like Solana come with a degree of risk that we are not comfortable taking on. Our experience suggests that bridging across EVM chains is generally more reliable and safer than EVM from EVM to a non-EVM. Obviously, the idea of multi-chain ecosystem has been around for a while, and I think the fragmentation tends to be less of a problem now with modern cross-chain solutions like Li-Fi, where it's entirely abstracted away with a well-thought-out user journey. But we try to take a neutral position and steer away from discussions in the sense of that one chain is better than another. We are considering adding Phantom and Avalanche, depending on what the community desires, but we are sticking to the EVM paradigm for now.
One quick question I had is, in terms of like stable coins and Web2 businesses, larger corporations leveraging it, what is the biggest like issue that they have with it? Or is it a trust factor? Is it a UI thing? Like, can you kind of talk about what do you think is the current friction and kind of not allowing that adoption right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Over 90% of SMEs are open to integrating with Web3 and digital assets, but they don't know where to start. The friction of the onboarding process for a CDFI payment gateways like BitPay really prevents plenty of SMEs from using crypto and stablecoins to unlock billions of new revenue. We are building a plug-and-play solution that can be easily integrated into existing systems of Web3 businesses like Shopify and WordPress to use as the main or alternative payment method for their businesses. The vast majority of Web2 is significantly behind in adopting Web3 payment methods, and by accepting digital assets as payments or giving your employees the option to get paid in crypto, you signal to the world that you are a forward-looking company and you care about having a diversity of payment methods.
For sure. I think it's not only that, but you're also opening the doors to such a large new market, right? Like so many people only use crypto. Well, maybe not only use crypto, but it's a major part in their life. And if a business is to accept crypto, there's plenty of people that would be willing to spend a lot more crypto than they would fiat.
And it also helps you think of like businesses as continuing to innovate, like accepting new payment formats and really working with these new currencies, I think is going to help every business become kind of more exciting to the new kind of generation.
Right.
Yeah, it's well known that millennials and Gen Z, they prefer to shop at stores that reflect their values. And over 50% of Gen Z, they own crypto. And over 80% of them, they want brands to take a stance on social issues like financial inclusion and sustainability. And clearly, blockchain is the next step in evolution of fintech, making financial inclusion possible and with a far reduced carbon footprint compared to traditional banks and fintech institutions. Obviously, it also offers a much improved, or it offers a potential for a much improved customer experience as it's customizable. But let's think about the carbon footprint. Consider the resources consumed by hundreds of thousands of bank employees globally. This includes not just carbon footprint of commuting and office energy consumption, but the whole infrastructure that's needed for all these employees, branches, ATMs, offices. The environmental impact is vast. That's why crypto is by many perceived as the green choice.
And kind of touching back on that friction between Web 2 and Web 3, how does DLT proactively incentivize Web 2 companies to, utilize DLT and really get onboarded into the world of DeFi?
Our plan is to offer users a single access point for interacting with whitelisted DeFi protocols that very few Web2 people know about, and to remain non-custodial where users retain full control over their assets. I want to stress that if a platform requires your email address to use its product, it's not DeFi. Coinbase is not DeFi, BitPay is not DeFi, Stripe is not DeFi. They've built decent tools to allow businesses to accept crypto from customers, but it comes with limitations. We see SMEs getting the short end of the stick again. The onboarding process could take weeks on average, often over a month. It's way more complicated to onboard as a business compared to an individual. So to fully benefit from the blockchain's potential, you have to go full DeFi, even as a business.
So we know that in DeFi, there's many different applications, many different aspects. There's gaming, There's swapping, ZK syncs, and anonymous transactions, things like Monero. What aspects of Web3 does DLT utilize as far as the technological capabilities?
So first of all, we provide the ability to accept any digital asset or token and ensure that you always get paid in a stable coin so that the risk is the same as if you had received dollars. The main unit of account within the platform is USDC or Eurocoin, both by Circle. And through one click, we enable you to add the possibility of accepting this asset through your website. Let's say you decide that all you want to receive is USDC through Polygon. So if your customer, if they initiate payment in, let's say, USDT on Ether, we will make this conversion with Uniswap or a similar DEX. You can also create an invoice that's payable in stablecoins by default, and we are working on adding more features. As far as fiat, we've been asked this question many times, but we do not have a plan in the short term to support any fiat on-ramp or off-ramp. Obviously, this might change in the future. We haven't taken a firm position on that yet. And in theory, you could have a DeFi app where the main piece of identity is a wallet address that you use to log in. You would still have to perform KYC as fiat is involved, but there will be no email involved. And if you lose the wallet, you would have to redo the KYC or some other hybrid. These are very much untested waters, and there's lots of room to innovate.
Yeah, that makes sense. And thanks for breaking that down. But I'm still unsure about how DLT maneuvers and hedges against the volatility in like digital assets. Can you maybe talk a bit more about that as well?
Sure. Well, the swaps are performed instantly. So let's say your customer, they pay with ETH or any of the supported tokens. It is automatically converted to USDC or Eurocoin or whatever you prefer. Therefore, there is zero risk of volatility on the side of the merchant or business. And basically, by creating an environment where now you are accepting even the financially excluded, you are really expanding possibilities of commerce through like this universal access to USD and Euro-backed stablecoins. This will lead to huge increase in productivity, job creation, higher GDP. For instance, in countries like Sudan, Ethiopia, or Ukraine, people with very little to no interest in speculation are using stablecoins for everyday purchases and to protect themselves against volatility of the local currency. So even right now, stablecoins, they account for the vast majority of the trading volume of the crypto market and over 20% of the total market cap. We predict that they will surpass the market cap of Bitcoin and Ether in the next 5 to 10 years. And those businesses that they adopt stablecoins early, whether it's through us or another solution, especially cross-chain stablecoin payments, they will have an unfair advantage over those that don't.
For sure. So is DLT, the platform itself, commencing the swaps when, say, a business receives Bitcoin, for example? Is DLT converting that to USDC, sending that USDC to the company?
So as I've stated before, we are more of a DeFi aggregator where we aggregate third-party services. Right now, the swaps are performed by LiFi, which is also a DEX aggregator, which like further aggregates other DEXs like 1inch and like bridges like Seller. And this is all performed in the background, but through the one unified interface of DLTPay.
And now in that line of several transactions from when a customer sends a company payment and there's a swap in between, naturally there are some fees included in that, such as like a swap fee, gas fees. What typically does that look like for a user? Are they expected to pay, say, 10% more for a product to account for those fees? What does that look like?
Really, the idea is to move away from layer one, like ETH, and use Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, where the fees are negligible. They are in few cents, even accounting for the cross-chain swaps and conversions.
Makes sense. Yeah, some of those layer twos are like extremely cheap, few cents. So yeah, I definitely see that being a valid point.
I wanted to touch on one thing. I know you mentioned user experience. And time again, we hear about like the terrible user experience in crypto. Can you maybe talk about how DLT payments eases this trouble for both businesses and even consumers?
So the lack of efficient onboarding process in Web3 and DeFi for SMEs is time consuming, and it has become the most common customer experience breakpoint for an entrepreneur or a small startup. So this is something that we could solve very effectively. This will be especially important in the future to remove this standard onboarding process, as the intersection of crypto and AI is fast approaching, and machines will not get bank accounts. They will communicate over protocols like Ethereum, and we remain very optimistic about the space despite the recent downturn.
Now, lastly, what does the onboarding process for DLT look like for a company that wants to utilize your guys' company?
To start using our product, all you need to do is head over to DLTPay and connect your wallet. We have launched an open beta recently. For the version 1, we are live with cross-chain swaps. You can issue an invoice, use it as a wallet. We hope to create an infrastructure for startup or entrepreneur to flourish in this permissionless environment. And we will be adding many more features. We will have an incentive system in tokens, but this hasn't been launched yet, and we're waiting for the right moment.
Amazing. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this up, Kenneth?
It's been great. I hope listeners found value in what I had to share. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Twitter. That's where we are most active. And we are working on a series of new partnerships, really taking a collaborative approach to bring new features as quickly as possible.
Awesome. I personally agree with a lot of the statements you've made here. I think stablecoins are very underutilized in the overall economy. And I wouldn't be too surprised to see that market cap surpass that of Bitcoin and many other assets. I think it's very interesting and very useful what DLT is doing for the greater crypto ecosystem. Even from experience by us at CoinScan, accounting in crypto can be very tough, especially to do it by the books, do it 100% accurately. So, we could honestly use a product like DLT Payments. I think that's great stuff. Thank you again so much, Kenneth, for hopping on. We're going to make sure to leave all of DLT Payments information in the description below. You can find their Twitter, website, etc. We'll also leave some information on Kenneth down below, LinkedIn, Twitter, and whatnot. This has been the CoinScan team coming at you with another cryptocurrent. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. We've got a lot of exciting things coming up, and we will see you next week.